Say good morning to everyone. Nice crowd here this morning. We jump into our lesson this morning. I want you to stop and think about some of the struggles that you deal with on a daily or weekly basis. As I have conversations with individuals and you stop and think about what each person is battling with in their life, it is kind of the focus of this morning. I was having a conversation with a lady this past week who has experienced a lot of death in her life over the last, I would say, 6 months. And she was explaining to how she was really struggling overcoming the loss of family members. Really struggling with the fact that she has more family members that are dealing with these health issues. Struggling with the fact that some of her children were battling sin in their life that they couldn't overcome. And it made me start to really think about the lesson that I'm going to talk about this morning. We have about 150 individuals here this morning. And as you listen to this lesson this morning, I want you to stop and think about what things are getting in your way of being a stronger Christian. What have you been confronted with in life, in your family, in your workplace, that is kind of this stumbling block that's hindering you? And that'll be the focus of this lesson this morning as we tie in to a lesson that we're very, very common with. We're going to talk about defeating our giants this morning. I think as soon as you see the picture on the screen, you probably know exactly where I'm going in the scriptures and what story we're going to talk about. But we're going to look at it from a different angle this morning that I hope builds us up and makes us stronger as Christians when we talk about defeating our giants. Each one of us, like I stated, can think of certain giants in our life that interfere with, are we truly focusing on being a stronger person, being a stronger Christian, being stronger when it comes to the will of God? Again, it could be your health issues. It could be issues of losing family members. It could be issues of sin. It could be issues of that filter that Dwayne talked about this morning. Things that just happen in your life that interfere with you wanting to continue to focus on being a Christian or thinking about being a Christian. The list gets really long, and we often talk about those things. But there's these giants that get in front of us. And sometimes these giants can cause a little bit of fear. Sometimes these giants can make us make some pretty bad decisions. Sometimes these giants just jump out in front of us and we don't know what to do with it. So if we look in the scriptures in 1 Samuel chapter 17, again, most of us are extremely familiar with the story of David and Goliath. This individual that goes to war against this giant, or goes to battle against this giant that everyone expected him to be defeated. Everyone expected and ensured that he was not going to win against this giant Goliath. And as we jump into the scriptures in 1 Samuel chapter 17, starting in verse 20, we know that there's this battle that's taking place with the children of Israel. And if you jump back to verse 19, it says, "And now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Eli, fighting with the Philistines." So this battle had started, and then we're going to be introduced to this character by the name of David. This individual of David who's going to be confronted with the giant, and he has to make a decision. What is he going to do? What is he going to do when this obstacle is put in front of him? And I ask you the same question. What are you doing about the obstacles that are being confronted with you? I don't think oftentimes we focus on them enough and we don't realize that it eats away at our being. It eats away at the things we do. Last week we talked about envy. Some of us envy and we don't even realize that it's pulling us away from being a better Christian. We talk about things like bitterness. We talk about things like sin, things that just completely get in front of us. But again, we're going to talk about David this morning who decided he needed to do something about it. And the first thing I want to tell you this morning is the only thing when it comes to defeating giants is you. The only thing that determines what's possible for you is you. And again, we're going to learn this morning that there's certain things that can help us along the way, but we have to start making decisions for ourselves. And I've mentioned several times over several sermons that I've preached, we live in this world of blaming others. We live in this world where we don't want to take responsibility, and I'm not even talking about for the negative actions, but even overcoming some of the things that are really weighing us down, the things that are bothering us. It starts with us as individuals. And we're going to see that David did some things that he needed to do to ensure he was going to be successful. And one thing that David realized, no matter the giant that was in front of him, he was going to confront it. He didn't look anywhere else. He didn't have, say, no, you go do it. He decided for himself, I've got to do something about this. And we have those conversations a lot of times when we're consulting or having just deep conversations with people who really struggle with things in life. Whether it be depression, whether it be addiction, whether it be the understanding of what's going on in this world. It starts with you and us as individuals of saying, you know what? I've got to do what David did. And again, we're familiar with David going into this battle. And David didn't look at this battle and say, it's too big for me. He's too big, I'm not going to do it. He chose to go a different route. And as we jump on into the scriptures, when we talk about defeating the giant, the first thing that David realized is he realized that this giant is interfering with God's plan. If you look at 1 Samuel 17 there in verse 26, it said, And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach of Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? So I want you to ask yourself this morning, when we're talking about these giants that interfere with their lives, because David did. He said, what's interfering with God's plan? Who is interfering with God's plan? Because I assure you this morning, there is a what or a who that is interfering with God's plan for each one of us. Your giant may be bigger than my giant. I understand that. But we all have giants that are interfering just like David did. But the first thing he did, he said, I'm going to do something about it. And if it's interfering with God's plan, we're going to do something about it. Again, I think sometimes we look at giants and we say they're too big. Oh, I'm not going to do anything. Oh, I'm just going to step back and say, you know what? Maybe if I don't talk about it, it'll go away. Well, I want to assure you, David's giant was not going away. Most of the giants that we're dealing with are not going to go away. And that's the reason we have to confront these things. When we talk about our giants, again, sometimes we talk about that it leads us to sin. And you may be going through issues to where it is what we call a straight up sin, or maybe issues to where it's starting to make you realize maybe that filter is making me think, well, maybe I don't have the faith that I used to have. Maybe these doubts and things are creeping in that we've heard sermons about over the last couple of years. Maybe these things are leading me away, but the thing is, there's always going to be this temptation to pull us away from God's plan. And David was dealing with the exact same thing. He was being tempted. And you say, well, how was he being tempted? 1 Samuel 17 and 16 tells us, And this Philistine, this Goliath, he drew near morning and evening and presented himself for 40 days. So every morning, Goliath would go out to the people and basically challenge, who's going to fight me? And he was tempting the children of Israel, these Israelites, saying, I've asked somebody to come fight me. Who's going to do it? Well, see, the giant does the same thing to us every single day. The giant that you're battling with, it's constantly being presented to you, day in and day out. Some of you, maybe it's only been 40 days. Some of you, maybe it's been years. Maybe this giant, again, whether it be the giant of sin or the giant of doubt, these things are rolling through our minds, and it's just constantly on the forefront. We think about it in the morning. We think about it in the evening. We think about it at night. And then again, we start realizing, you know what? Is this really interfering with God's plan? And oftentimes it does if you really start focusing on it. You realize, you know what? This is pulling me away from being a stronger Christian. I'm allowing to come up with certain excuses to say, you know what? Yeah, this is too big of a giant for me to overcome. But the good thing about when we talk about being tempted by these giants, just like Goliath was tempting the Israelites, is reminded in James 1 and 12, it says, Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. When these giants are put in front of us and we can overcome these temptations, that's how we know that we're going to receive the crown of life. But how do we overcome these temptations? How do we overcome the things in life? Well, again, we do exactly what we're talking about when it comes to David, of how he handled Goliath this morning. In 1 Samuel 17 and 24, it says, And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, they fled from him and were sore afraid. Everyone else was running away from Goliath. This giant that was put in front of him, they said, we're not tackling. We're going to ignore it. Maybe it'll go away. I'm scared. Look how big it is. But don't we do that as individuals sometimes? Don't we look at issues that we're facing in life and say, you know what, I just can't do it. I'm done. I give up. We do that with our spiritual life. We do that with our walk with Christ. But not David. 1 Samuel 17 and 48, it says, And it came to pass that when the Philistines arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and he ran toward the army to meet the Philistines. David didn't sit back and say, I'm going to let this run my life. I'm going to let this have control over me. He said, no more are we going to allow this individual or this thing, this who, this what, to interfere with God's plan. And so he went straight forward with it. But what I like about David as he goes to battle Goliath is he basically made use of what he already had. We were talking this morning in class about the simple things in life, and it ties straight in with what David did. You know, many people, again, we make these excuses of, well, I don't have this, or I don't have enough of this, or I need certain things to help me get through life, to pull me away from these types of sins, or these types of thoughts, these giants that keep coming at me. I need more, and more. But not David. He didn't even need the fancy armor that Saul offered to him. He didn't need the fancy stuff. He didn't need something extra. He didn't need all these big, expensive things, or he didn't need these big specialists or things like that. It says, And Saul armed David with the armor, and he put out a helmet of brass upon his head. And he armed him with a coat of mail, or a coat of armor. And David girded up his sword upon the armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them on. So Saul was going to offer David, as he went into battle with Goliath, he was going to offer him the best equipment that he could have. And David says, number one, I've not proved these things. Number two, I don't need these things. And so when we kind of relate this to our spiritual life or battling our giants, sometimes it's the simple things in life that help us get through these things. As we talked about in class this morning, it's the simplicity of the scriptures that can help us get through a lot of issues in life. We know how simple David went with his approach. 1 Samuel 17 and 40 says, And he took his staff in his hand, and he chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and he put them in his shepherd's bag, which he had even in his scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. He had an opportunity to have something so fancy, this nice helmet, this nice armor, this big sword, and he went for the simple things. And again, I think we need to think about that when it comes to our spiritual life sometimes. We make it a lot more complicated than it really should be. We've had a lot of conversations of how people try to reinvent the church. And they try to have these big, elaborate things to try to pull people in. And my sermon last Sunday proved that that's not even working. But if we go back to the simple things of the scriptures that guards and armors us of how to defeat these giants, that's exactly what the story of David is telling us. David said, I can do the fancy things, or I can go with the simple things in life to help me get through this. And so I tell people, and I encourage people all the time, of sometimes we have to sit back and simplify our lives. If there are giants in our world that's creating these obstacles for us to become a stronger Christian, we have to simplify our lives and get rid of those giants. We have to be like David and confront it. We have to be like David and say, you know what? I'm going to push things away that are stopping me from becoming a Christian. And that's tough to do sometimes. Because a lot of times to push things away to be a stronger Christian, it means getting rid of material things. It may mean getting rid of some friends that are pulling you away from being a Christian. It may even sometimes mean there's family members that are pushing you away from being a Christian. Because anytime these thoughts and things get into our heads that pull us away from God's plan, the outcome is not going to be good. But what I like the most about this story, and it's an angle that we never really look at when we talk about David and Goliath, and it comes down to the fact that God uses flawed and really complex people. God always uses flawed and complex people to prove his point. And I think oftentimes, like in 1 Samuel 17 and 42, we have this image that David is this man of perfection. We talk about in the scriptures because it says David was a man after God's own heart. So we think of David as just this perfect person that was used to defeat Goliath. And even Goliath calls him out. It says, and when the Philistine looked about him, he saw David, and he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and he was ruddy and a fair countenance. He had a good complexion, and he looked strong, and we see him coming here, and we think, oh man, David's perfect. David wasn't perfect. And I think when we talk about David being perfect, we automatically jump to the older David. Well, we know that David, he was in adultery. He was a murderer. He had an affair with Bathsheba. He killed Uriah, sent him out to war so he would die. And we say, well, that's the older David. Well, really, let's stop and look at this younger David here that's been pulled in to go to battle. In reality, this David is kind of flawed. In verses 21 and 22, it says, and for Israel and the Philistines have put the battle in array army against the army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and he ran into the army, and he came and he saluted his brethren. You say, well, how does that mean he was flawed? He didn't follow his father's command. David was where he was not supposed to be in this situation. He was not even supposed to hear that Goliath was wanting to go to battle. Because if you jump back to verse 20, David was commanded to do something else. It says, and David rose up early in the morning, and he left the sheep with the keeper, and he took it, and he went as Jesse had commanded him. And he had come to the trench as the host was going forth to fight, and shouted for the battle. David was told by his father, you go do this. But he didn't. He snuck over and he heard the conversation. So in reality, he wasn't this perfect man. He didn't listen to everything that he was told, just like each one of us this morning. We're a little flawed, people. We're a little flawed at times. Sometimes we're complex people. But something else we don't talk about a lot when we talk about David and Goliath, of him being flawed, David wasn't just really interested in the children of Israel being successful. David also had a little self-preservation going on here. Notice what he says here in verse 26. He says, and David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? You want to know, so what reward am I going to get? So if somebody kills this Goliath, what reward are they going to get? So he had a little self-preservation, just like some of us do at times. We kind of get selfish and we think about our own selves and we don't worry about anyone else. Well, David was doing the same thing. What about David's selection of the sling and the stones? To be honest with you, there were rules of engagement during war during this time. There's rules of engagement during war even today. David did something that was pretty unconventional. Things that probably weren't really the rules of warfare, especially when it comes to one-to-one battle. So in a way, David had some flaws, just like you and I. And I only bring this point up because oftentimes people get it so into their mind that they have to have this, I have to be perfect before I can make that decision to be a Christian. I have to have no no sin in my life. I have to have no doubts in my life. I have to just be this perfect individual to ensure that I have my salvation. That's not true. And David is a great example of that in his younger years and even in his older years. We're going to make mistakes. But the thing is, we have to be like David and have the courage to confront the issues, confront the giants in front of us, and try to defeat the giants that are in front of us. So I ask the question, do you believe it's possible to overcome your giant? Do you have the faith that you can overcome the giants and the obstacles in your life? But David did. David gave a very strong response after Goliath looked at him and said, well, who are you, this young, ruddy-looking man? And then said David to the Philistine in 1 Samuel 17, 45 and 6. He said, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and I will take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day to the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. David believed. David knew that God was with him. Oftentimes when we face our giants, I think we forget God. When we're outside of this building and we're going through issues, whether it be health concerns, family issues, dealing with whatever giants in front of us, the list can go on and on and on. David had faith that God was going to be there with him. So again, I ask the question, do you have that faith? Do you believe that God is in control? Because David did. And the reason we have to have the courage to confront our giants, and we have to have the courage to look to the simplicity of the Scriptures, and we have to believe it's possible, because defying God's plan ends with death. David told Goliath, this is going to end in death for you. Well, folks, the Scripture tells us the same thing. If we don't defeat some of our giants, it ends in a spiritual death for all of us. In 1 Samuel 17, toward the end of the story here, we all know the outcome of the story of David and Goliath. It says, and David put his hand in his bag, and he took thence a stone, and he slang it, and he smote the Philistine in the forehead. That the stone sunk into his forehead, and then he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and he smote the Philistine, and he slew him. So this giant that was in front of him, he was able to conquer. But then again, some of the giants that are in front of us are conquering us. And if we don't overcome it, it ends in our spiritual death. Romans 6 and 23 says, for the wages of sin is death. When we talk about sin, again, it makes us uneasy a lot of times. But when we talk about this sin that creeps in, a lot of us, when we think about our giants, we may think, well, it's not really sin. But anything that's contrary to the commandments of the Scripture leads to sin. We talked last week that envy can lead to sin. We talked that bitterness can lead to more and more sin. Lusting leads to even more and more sin. Our doubts, our desires leads to sin. And no matter how small your giant is, if we don't defeat it, if we don't start facing these giants, again, it leads to that spiritual death. Just like the Philistine. He was big, he was strong, he was powerful. But David was not going to let that interfere with him, ensuring that God's plan was fulfilled. So again, do you let the giants in your life stop you from fulfilling God's plan? And again, I think when we talk about the simplicity, it's pretty simple. David didn't need the armor. David didn't need the helmet. David didn't need the sword. And he It tells us, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. We get to make that choice of defeating the giants in our lives